Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of The M Word. My name's Robin. I'm the Technical Director of Man and Machine in the UK, and it's a pleasure to have you with us this afternoon. So a little bit different today on a week that's seen turmoil in the Houses of Parliament and Liz Truss's reign compared to or put up against a lettuce with regards to lifespan. Well, that's over already. But I thought I'd do something a little bit different today. I'm off next week, so I thought I'd do ODS Max. We'll have a little bit of fun with some modeling, maybe try a few simulations, maybe do some hair and fur, maybe do some fluid simulations and things like that, and just have a bit of fun for the next half an hour. Not necessarily to teach you how to model a pumpkin, but maybe to show and explain some of the lighting functionality, go through some of the fluid simulation functionality, and maybe some things like hair and fur. So not necessarily a topic that you're going to get huge use out of in the context that I will be showing it, but hopefully something that you're going to be able to pick up and use in a more useful workflow moving forward. So yeah, I'm at home today if you haven't noticed, so camera's a little bit funny. I look orange. I promise I'm not this color. So yeah, hopefully everything's coming through okay. The Wi-Fi looks like it's having a little bit of a mare, but I'm just going to go with it and see how we get on. So and let's share my screen over there. Perfect. Okay, so as always, these sessions are really there to try and give you a tip or a trick, share a virtual coffee break, and just talk about some of the technology that we sell and support. Again, with this kind of example today, where I'm that into context, but by all means, reach out, give us some feedback, and let us know how things are getting on from your perspective. As always, give us a like, give us a follow, leave us a comment, and subscribe so that you can see when we put our new content up. Because we're regularly posting content like this, not just as part of the M Word every Thursday, but throughout the week we post content on our YouTube channel. I'm getting some flags. There we go. Sometimes the software I'm using, it tends to drop its stream and start dropping frames when I've been running it for a long time. I've been sat here for 45 minutes or so, ready to go. So it looks like it might have dropped a few frames. So I've refreshed it now. Hopefully it'll be okay. And let's kick straight off. So I'm in Max. I'm using Max 23. Generally speaking, as per usual, there isn't really anything that I'm doing in this version of Max that you couldn't do in an older version of Max. But I'm going to try and keep this quite fun today and a little bit different. So we're going to model up a jack-o'-lantern inside of Max. Maybe we'll find a nice texture to put on there. We'll put a light on the inside, try and make a fairly nice render, I guess. But then if we've got time, we might have a little play around with some hair and fur and some fluid simulation, as I've said. So inside of Max, if you're new to it, it's a really nice program to use. Yes, the interface is a bit daunting. There's buttons all over the show. But generally speaking, it's really fun to use because you can just almost use it quite artistically and quite creatively. So I'm going to hold down Alt and press W to go into full screen, like so. And that would just take my viewport and put it into full screen mode to allow me to have a bigger real estate. And from there, I'm going to go and place down a sphere. So from my Create panel on the right-hand side, I'm going to come up here and click Sphere. And then with that sphere, I'm going to come and just click and drag out a sphere with my mouse. So that's going to be the basis of our pumpkin. Look more specifically like the kind of pumpkin shape that we all know and love at this time of year. Why can't we get them all year round? They taste delicious. They're not just good for jack-o'-lanterns, they're also good for eating. So let's turn off the grid with G. And with this sphere here, let's go and set the radius here to maybe, let's say it's a giant one, maybe a meter's a little bit overkill. I've got some pretty big ones at home downstairs ready. Took the family pumpkin picking last week. Huge field, you just go and pick your own, cut it off the vine and take it back with you. So we've got some pretty good size. So we're going to go with, let's go with 0.5 meter in size, so something fairly big. Segments really depends on how smooth you want this thing to look. I want it to be quite unsmooth actually, but you'll notice that by changing that, so the more segments you have, the smoother your sphere is going to be. So I'm going to stick with maybe about 24 for the purpose of this. I don't want something that's perfectly smooth, but I want enough to start working on and getting the kind of shape that I'm after. And then with the sphere selected, I'm going to use my modifiers drop down here, which interestingly isn't dropping down. That's not my fault. That's just not working. Okay, that's annoying. Let's see. Okay, so it is working. It's just not dropping down. So let's go to an editable poly. Normally you'd hit that and get a big list of modifiers. Why that's not dropping down, I'm not 100% sure, but we'll choose edit poly, expand that, and we want to grab the edges here. So we want to have the these individual lines that we select. And I want to go in and create the, can we call them creases, the curvature or the correct kind of shape for this pumpkin first and foremost. So I'm going to come in here and hold down Control on my keyboard, click this first edge, click the second edge, and then double click on the third one. Max will take your, for me. I'm going to do the same on the other side. So click, click, double click, and then just check that Max has all of those selected for me all the way around, which it does. I'm going to go and do that in a few more places because I want to pick up maybe quarters of this pumpkin first of all. And then maybe the in-betweens. What have we got? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Perfect. So 1, 2, 3. There's the middle. Let's pick that side there, this one here, and this one here. Our lines that we need just there. And what we're going to do is with those selected, we're in editable poly mode, so I can push and pull these polygons, these vertexes, and change them. So if I go to my scale tool now, I could just use a uniform scale in the middle, click and hold, and I can scale those vertex in or out. So literally, you could come outwards a little bit or inwards a little bit actually for the purpose of this. It doesn't really matter. I'm going to go ever so slightly in. You don't want to go too far because then you've got something that looks like something from Star Wars. But let's just come in ever so slightly a little bit. You can play around with some specifics if you want to. So you could go a little bit in the X or a little bit in the Y or a little bit in the pumpkin shaped like so. Once we've got that, I'm going to grab the whole thing. So grab the whole edit poly with the scale tool selected. And we want this to be a little bit squattier. So we don't want a perfectly round one. So I'm just going to pull it down ever so slightly uniformly. So it's a little bit flatter. We could also make it a little bit wider as well whilst we're at it. So we can come in and make this as specific as we want to. But if we F4 again, just to get that basic shape, we've got something that is at least representative of the kind of shape that we're after. Let's give it a name, pumpkin, and let's make it orange. I'm going to try and find a texture. Let's come onto edge down here, or even up here. And let's go to textures on Google. They do, but nothing that's wrappable by the looks of things. No, that's a model. Okay, so let's not use that. Let's just go to Google and search for a pumpkin texture. We'll just use Google Images for the purpose of this and say thank you very much to whoever has put these images on there. Let's go with, kind of want one that's tileable more than anything else. Pumpkin texture, tileable. Seamless, that's the word I'm looking for. Tileable, seamless. And let's go with, what have we got here? Adobe stock. I do have an Adobe account, so I can grab that, but I'm just going to be a little bit lazy and do a save on my desktop, like so. So I'm going to press M to go into the material editor inside of Max. I'm using the slate editor here, so let's just grab a physical material and let's grab a base color map, use a general bitmap, and go and select that pumpkin texture there from our desktop. We could name this if we want to. We could play around with some of the options on the right-hand side here to make this shinier, less shinier. We certainly don't want a reflective pumpkin, that's for sure. Roughness, we could add bump maps on there. They're on the pumpkin. I'm going to add a UVW map onto the pumpkin and say it's spherical. I'm going to just move the camera ever so slightly around and just make sure it looks kind of all right. It looks okay, to be honest. In an ideal world, I think I'd have got a flattened texture of a pumpkin. From that flattened texture of the pumpkin, I would have then used unwrap UVW inside of Max to get the flat and put the two together and wrap it back together. But again, for the purpose of this, it looks okay. A few comments about stuttering and buffering. It says it's okay my end this time, so hopefully it's also okay your end too. Apologies if it's not, but I'm going to blame the weather because it's raining, or maybe it's Liz's fault. Who knows? Let's continue either way. So there we go. We've got our shape going on just here. And then what we're going to do is start creating this jack-o'-lantern look and feel. So let's just turn off the UVW map, go back to my edit poly. We're going to have a look at vertex, and we're going to have a look at them from the front. Now, what I want to do is, if I was doing this over a longer period of time, I'd probably be a little bit more specific about the cutouts. Maybe I would use the 2D sketching tool to sketch some actual rounder eyes or some more shapeable components that I could then imprint onto the shape and cut them through. I'm going to be a little bit lazy for the purpose of today because we are pushed for time a little bit, but hopefully you'll generally see need to create some triangular edges here to work with, triangular edges here to work with, and then maybe a few down the bottom as well. This is where I wish I'd have probably put more faces onto this, but it doesn't really matter. So let's come onto the right-hand side here. Let's go from, what should we do? Over here. Let's grab this one and this one. So I'm just selecting those two vertex here and here, and I want to connect them together to create an edge between the two. It would be nice to have them a little bit bigger, but I think joining them up would look a little bit silly. So let's go from there to there, and let's come down on the right-hand side and choose connect. Just pull that out so it gets into two for me. There we go. Choose connect, and you get this this straight line between the two. So we can then basically we have a polygon there and there rather than just a square. So we've got more geometry that we can work with. I'm going to continue to say this one to this one. Perhaps we'll connect those as well. Great. So we have the ability to say this, this, and this become an eye. Fantastic. Let's look from the front again and do the same thing on the other side. So here's the center. So we're going to go from here to here, connect them up, and then from here to here, connect them up again. Again, this will give us these and these for our eyes for our pumpkin. Now, if I delete these, by default, when you model something like this in Max, it's kind of thin. It's got no volume to it. So I'd want to speak today, perspective view. There we go. And as you can see, we've got our eyes that are on there, and we've got the thing that's starting to take shape. We won't shell it just yet, so let's continue. Let's go back into a front view and create our mouth. So let's go to vertex once again, and let's go. What do we want from there to there? Let's connect you two. Then from there to there, and we're literally just going to connect these to create a jagged line from left to right. This connect tool works really well for basically bridging two components here, or two vertex together to create additional geometry. I'm going to do the same thing the other side, so we're going to go from here to here. Something falls out of it, or generally it just looks an absolute mess, which you know, it's all fun and games. The best bit's when you dig out the inside, you get brains and gore all over the place. Apart from when you've got two little girls that don't like digging out the inside, and then you have to dig out 3 giant pumpkins because you bought the biggest ones in the field. Hey, we all make mistakes. So let's pick up these here as well. Oh, no, Alt and click to deselect, by the way. There we go. So there's our face. Let's delete that out, go and have a look in perspective view. And we've got something that looks kind of along the right lines. Maybe that's a little bit too low on the mouth, but I'm pretty happy with that. So with this edit poly, let's go and find a shell modifier, and that will make thickness. So that will take my my pumpkin and shell it by an amount. So in here, it just gives you an amount to shell it. So we're going with 2.5 centimeters. Looks about right for the purpose of this. And we've got something that's really starting to take shape here. Maybe we want to have a turbo smooth on there as well to make it a little bit smoother. There we go, now we're talking. And let's put back on that UVW map, spherical in shape, to get the map displaying correctly on there as well. Lovely. So our pumpkin's starting to take shape. I really wish it kind of had had some lines on there. I could probably come into the edit poly and start playing with shading and stuff like that to make it a little bit more specific. But again, I'm kind of quite happy with it, and throw a light on the inside as well. So let's go to the create tools again. Let's go ahead and grab a, I don't know, primitive object cylinder this time. Let's go and look at this from the top down, grab the center and drag out like so, and up and click. So in one view there is easier in 3D because you see the movements, but I've clicked, dragged the size of the diameter of that, and then dragged it up and clicked again. Doesn't really matter, I'm all doing this by eye, so I can just pull this up now, roughly place it. Let's change the height to make it a little bit longer. Let's have a few more segments because I'm going to bend this in a minute, so I want to have plenty of segments to be able to work with this. 32, so it's nice and smooth on the edges. And then we've got something that looks like that. Great. We're going to turn that into an edit poly as well. Again, apologies, my modifier here isn't working. I did warn you that this is a completely unprepared session, but actually, other than that, it's worked so far so good today. But let's grab an edit poly, and then let's go and grab our vertex. Look at this from the front. And the first thing I want to do is just trim this down, or scale this down as we get up bigger and bigger, as our stalk gets further and further away from the pumpkin. So I'm going to go inwards, hold down Alt, deselect those ones, go inwards, hold down Alt, deselect those ones. And I'm kind of doing this by eye because I want natural, not really done in a uniform way. Because I think that will make it look a little bit more interesting. So we've got that, perfect, sort of looks like that. Yeah, I've kind of made a mistake there. Let's do it from the left. I did tell you, warts and all. We'll do it from the left as well, and let's just come through and do some editing of the profile from the left-hand side. Again, it doesn't need to be perfect. It doesn't need to be anything specific. You'll get the general idea. I'm playing around with geometry and just changing a few bits and pieces. There we go. So we've got something that looks like that. From there, let's come in and choose a bend modifier from that list. Bend, there we go. And with bend, what we can do is go into a front view, and we can grab the center point of the bend just here, move that upwards so it's kind of in the middle. And then once that's there, we can start bending this. Okay, so let's go for about a 70-degree angle. We can change the direction so we can make it quite nice with regards to its natural appearance. And then from there, I'm just going to select the whole thing and just move it then into place. So again, I'm just eyeballing this for the purpose of this. There might be slightly nicer ways of doing this. I'm not a Max user day in, day out, but generally you'll get the general idea. Perfect. We've got something there that looks like a stalk of a pumpkin. Let's go in M for materials. Let's choose another physical material. With this one, maybe we'll see if there's a preset that we can use. Maybe there's a preset that says pumpkin stalk. Probably none of that, to be honest with you. Okay, let's just choose matte paint. Let's turn the reflections all the way down. Roughness up, and let's change the color to sort of a muddy, sort of browny, Halloweeny, dingy color. Oh, what have I turned up there? Okay. Matte paint. Oh, that's annoying. Okay, try again. Undo, 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 undo. Keep going, keep going, keep going. I don't know what I changed. I don't know what changed there. Okay, not to worry. Let's go and pick a physical material up once more. Change that material to our brown, dingy, greeny, dirty sort of color. Apply it to our selection. Great, there we go. One pumpkin, very reflective. I thought I'd turn the reflectivity down. No reflections, thank you very much. Great, and we could go on there and put noise and all sorts to make it look a little bit more like they do in reality, but generally speaking, it looks like a pumpkin. Let's go in and change some settings to create a light. So I'm going to go to my render settings, which is off the screen, which is a little bit annoying. So rendering, we're going to go to render setup. We're going to find that that has gone onto the other screen and off of for this, just because I think it's the easiest to get the best quality out. So we're going to choose Arnold. We're going to say 720 is fine. And then with that, we're going to create a light. We're going to create an... What is going on with my scaling on this afternoon? This is crazy. Okay, Arnold light, place an Arnold light inside the pumpkin just there. Let's choose move, place him inside of our jack-o'-lantern, like so. He's going to be pointing the other way up. So angle snaps on with A, rotate it around 90 degrees. Perfect. No, not 90 degrees. That doesn't make any sense at all. 180 degrees. Thank you very much. And then in the modifier, we've got some options that we can turn on and off. So I'm going to just say, have we got a template in here? I'm pretty sure we've got some presets. Let's go with something warm. Let's put a halogen light in there. Why the devil not? So in order to go into our environment and effects, let's choose automatic exposure control and render a preview. Looking pretty good, but the actual outside is a little bit dark. So we can play around with our exposure value to make that darker or lighter as we go through. So let's just go to 5, render the preview. Let's go to 10, render the preview. Doesn't make any difference. Why not? Why not? Okay, linear exposure control then. No, okay, exposure, automatic's fine, render preview. And what we'll do is we'll just stick a light outside the thing as well. So let's add another Arnold light. Let's place one just over here, nearer the camera. And let's choose a preset for that one. That's going to be more of a, where are we? Halogen warm again. Press the render button, so rendering, render, and we should have something. But you get the general idea. We've modeled a pumpkin and we've pressed render with a light inside. It looks pretty good. Like it. So a few minutes left. What else can we do on this spooky Halloween special? So we've got our jack-o'-lantern there. Let's show you a little bit of hair and fur, because it's kind of the only time of the year we get to show this, and it's really useful. So let's come in and create. What could we create? Cousin It. Let's create Cousin It. So let's choose a sphere again. Let's make sphere a little bit bigger than the pumpkin, like so. Go into a front view. And then with this, we're going to stretch it. So I'm going to grab my scale tool and we're going to scale this up and out a little bit, like so. Perfect. Maybe a few more segments on that. Let's squash it down. Actually, no, we'll leave it as it is. Great. Okay, so there's my base shape for Cousin It from the Addams family, of course. And then with that, it looks like an egg. Let's make sure it doesn't look like an egg and make it a bit fatter as well. There we go. With that, we're going to go in and put some hair and fur on it. So with an object selected, if you choose from your modifier drop-down, which, as we've already ascertained, doesn't work on my machine today, search for hair and fur. Come on. View of hair on that component. And then I can come in and start choosing a load of different properties to control how that hair looks. So from here, I'm not going to really do anything specific. You know, you can choose to brush the hair and brush it and part it and make specific hairstyles, if you will. I'm just going to come on and leave most of this as default. I'm going to make some of the thicknesses a little bit different, so it's maybe fuzzier. So let's make the root thickness a little bit thinner. The tip thickness still quite fine, perfect. That is absolutely fine. Let's on top of that add a couple of cylinders. I'll make my own incarnation of said monster, trademark and all that. Let's make thing was used, it was used. Let's call it Bob. Let's make Bob. So we'll have an eye there and an eye there. No, that's not a sphere, that's a cylinder. Sphere, there we go. Let's place a sphere just there and just grab that from the front and place it roughly where I want my eye to be. And I'm going to spin that round by 90 degrees. So it's roughly looking forward. Great. Let's hide everything else. So right click, hide unselected, go into perspective view and turn on my F4 so that I can see, let's say the eyeball. We're going to be really lazy with this and just say that we want to have a physical material for the whites of the eyes with a, let's have a really, really evil, deep red color. Beautiful. Let's select a multi sub-object material so that we can apply one material to the eyeball. Anything with ID 2 will be red. Anything with ID 1 will be white. That means that I can apply this to this. 1 is white, 2 is red. Great. I can go on to edit poly on here. I can go to polygon, grab all of them and make them material ID 1. Apart from, go to the front view. This one, get rid of that before it causes problems. All of these here and those two there, make those material ID 2. Great. Let's unhide all. Let's grab our eyeball, tilt it inwards a little bit, copy it over to the other side, tilt it the other way a little bit. Beautiful. This is going to be very dark again here because of the fact that I've got a light in there. So let's just go and create a big old massive light on top of our spoon above him, like so, pointing down. On there, it doesn't really need to be targeted for the purpose of this, but we do want to have a again a template that is just going to save us a little bit of time. So let's do something really bright, fluorescent daylight. Why not? Maybe bring it into a perspective view. I keep pressing C for camera, and I have not created any cameras, so that's just not going to work. 8 for environments and effects. Let's just do a quick preview just to see if that at least lights him up a little bit, which it kind of does. It's not that great, but it'll do. Rendering, render, give it a chance. And then what this will do is, it's very dark. I'm gonna have to fix that. It's gonna go away and make this fuzzy. So it's gonna go in and actually render this component as if it's hairy. So whilst I've modeled a sphere, elongated it and said it's made out of hair and fur, you can see how much longer that render is taking now whilst it's processing that hair and fur. And we can go in there and change the color, make it thicker, make it thinner, again, do all sorts of things. And actually you get a really, really nice result. It's just a shame about those lights. Let's just try one more thing to finish that up. Right, candle in there. Let's get rid of that in there. Let's go to create. Let's go to photometric lights, use a sun positioner on there. I'm just going to do a daytime render instead. So by placing a sun positioner on and going into a perspective view here, go to 8. Let's leave it on automatic. It's much brighter, which is kind of what you'd expect, being sunlight and all that. Probably too bright now. Linear render preview. That's better. So let's go in and select our hair and fur. Let's modify this now and just make it a little bit more fuzzy. So hair count, let's attempt to put up to 20,000. Hair segments 5, fine. density is 100, scale is 100. Length, we're going to make it a little bit shorter. Root thickness, we're going to go for 5. Tip thickness, we're going to go really fuzzy. Displacement, something like 1, so there's some variety between the two. We could put some materials on there if we want to. I'm not really that fussed. You'll probably have kittens. But again, for the sake of a few minutes, what you can see you're able to do with some of these modifiers in Max is actually do things that otherwise might be quite difficult. So if you're doing an exterior scene, we can create grass with hair and fur. If you're having fun, we can create fluffy monsters with hair and fur. We can do other bits and pieces as well, but you know, it's quite quick and easy to start getting some pretty good results. And again, this is just on draft render appearance. So if you think of the pumpkin there, if I'd have spent a little bit more time with the texture, a little bit more time with the lighting, we could have got something quite realistic quite quickly. And again, if you look at the horrendous thing that I've modeled on the right hand side there, we called him Bob. I quite like that. If we'd have spent a little bit more time, you can see kind of the quality of that fur, of that hair coming through already. So it's not something that's difficult to do. Just spend a bit of time in your texturing, spend a bit of time playing around with that hair and fur, and you can get some really, really nice functionality out of that. And again, if I go to style hair and you're into this kind of thing, let's grab a comb. Let's grab the comb and just click and drag in a direction, he says. Come on, style, hair, go. Oh, this will teach me. Finish styling. I'll flatten his hair. We'll just do that instead. We'll be lazy. I don't use it that much, as I say, but if we flatten his hair with the flatten hair button, probably starts to look a little bit like me, but it will give you that same kind of look and feel, but flatten. I think that's probably enough. So thank you very much for joining us. I don't suspect that that was particularly useful for many of our manufacturing and construction-based clients, but nonetheless, a little bit of fun for a Thursday, a little bit of fun when I guess there's probably a lot of concern for the economy, concern for what's going on in the UK. So yeah, just a little bit of fun for a Thursday afternoon. I hope that's been worthwhile. Thank you for joining us. Keep us liked and subscribed. Let us know what you want to see in the next sessions, and we hope to see you again soon. Take care. Thank you very much. Goodbye.